In this week's episode,
is this thing even on? Welcome to maintenance day. Yep. Yeah, so I do brake drums, a brake adjustment for ball bearings. It's good for lubricating parts, saw backs, winding teeth, right, you name it. Basically, check your ball bearings is something you guys can do.
after months of travelling, doing these simple checks is crucial for longevity on road. So let's get into it.
Welcome to maintenance day. Again, seems like there's heaps of these, but it's 4 good calls to keep us on the road. Today we're going to be changing brake pads, also brake shoes because it's drum brakes, and electromagnetic magnet. What else we got? Wheel bearings too. We haven't changed these quite since we had the van, so a couple of years now. They're all good, there's no play in them and that, but yeah, they've done quite a fair few Ks, and well, we'll see what the chroming's like on them and go from there. So jack this up, rip the wheel off and get into it. First you want to de-adjust your brakes, so this spins a lot freer. It's easy to take the wheel hub off, or your wheel brake drum off. Next, I'm going to get a big hammer. No, not too big. Just going to knock this cap off. Try not to dent it, but yeah, cap. Next, split pin. I'll just leave it on a little bit just to get that initial shock, so make sure it all comes off, because sometimes you can pull it off and get grease everywhere. Good shit. And then you know that you've de-adjusted your brake shoes enough to be able to slide this off easy. And you got a washer behind your nut, and behind that nut is your bearing. Voila! Just like that. Now, as we can see, well I can see, you guys can't, but I can, you sort of can. Brake pads are quite warm compared to the new ones. There's a lot more meat in the new ones, as there should be. They're very smooth as well. Only checking here for your brake drum for any uneven wear and how much of a lip you got. If it's quite rebarred in, you'll probably want to look at getting this machined or a new one of these, and then adjust your brake shoes to suit. Yeah, we'll strip all this down and get into some new stuff. That's an electromagnetic magnet, or just a magnet. That's controlled. That's on your little brake controller. So what you set your red arc brake controller, or whatever brake controller you got to, you've got ranges between 1 and 10 intensity sort of thing. When you put your foot on the brake, it just sticks to the drum here, which then moves this shoe very nicely noised upwards, which then pushes your shoes out. That's what stops this, or stops your wheel, stops your van, stops whatnot. But because this is uneven and worn on quite the curve, it doesn't actually have a proper good contact surface onto your drum, so we haven't really been able to have, you know, nice stopping brakes which you're relying on the car more to stop instead of the van, so we'll fix that. But these do wear eventually. This is the off-road version, which has a plastic centre. The non-off-road ones has a star in there, which is they tend to wear a lot faster than these, because what happens is when they sit there, when you're going off corrugations and that, they sort of rattle because there is that much play. And then yeah, the non-off-road ones sort of wear out that middle bit, and then they start to turn, and then they don't work as efficient as they should do. But also the wearing point is that, because it is slowly pushing on this as it drives. So yeah, we'll change that out as well. Good thing to do as well before you take this off is take a photo. I mean, I've already done the other side, so I sort of know what I'm up against, but it's a good thing to take a photo because these shoes are actually different. You got your leading, your trailing arm, and the brake shoe actual pad that's on this is shorter on your leading than your trailing, because your wheel's going this way. When they spring out and grab, your rear one sort of takes more of the grunt because it's stopping a wheel that's turning that way. This one still does a lot as well, as they should do, but yeah, that sort of takes more of the grunt. But good taking your photo to start with, so then you know which ways your springs go and what way your shoes go and which way, how it all ran is ideal. Have time as things do. Through the dusty roads, shit like that. Thing sees up like this bit here. This should move. This is your handbrake cable. So when you pull up the site or whatever, you unhitch, you put your handbrake on, so your van doesn't roll away. Your cable sits here, that pulls that way, which then pulls against your shoes and then locks on to stop it from moving. But yeah. Just a forward one. Just soaking there for a bit, I reckon. Should sort itself out. And a lot of these parts as well, if you pull off, clean up. And then chuck some anti-seize on just to help it slide a bit nicer. She's a bit squeaky at the moment, so a lot of this will come into play as it does dust roads. Spiderwebs don't help either. Bloody bastards. And also before all this, you've got to make sure that your parts that you've got are correct, because we've done the other side. I've checked that already. But yeah, before you start this, once your wheel and everything's off, you sort of lay out your spare parts and make sure that the parts you're putting on are the same but in a newer condition, because it'd be shit to get to this stage and then your parts are wrong. I've had that before. Sucked. New shoes, bearings, then comes the new springs, and your electric brake. That's what it should look like, nice and flat. This one's not nice and not flat, so that one goes. Good. Go! Rags can be quite expensive, so I just use toilet paper to clean up your grease. I mean, this is, you know, 30 cents from Servo or something, so. Clean up your stub axle. You can also check if there's been any water ingress or egress or whatever it is that's gotten into it, so you can sort of see pitting. This has obviously previously had a little bit, but nothing to be concerned about, sort of. So that's happy days. Right, now that's all cleaned up. We'll put a bit of anti-seize on the swivel parts, put it all back together. I don't have a big jar of anti-seize because, you know, I don't really drink it as much as beer, so just these little toothpaste tubes the Mint has, just enough in there to get out of the shit, and it's all you sort of need, really, especially on the road. Then you don't have to carry heaps around. Now, as you can see, inox here, save the day. Always carry a can of this with you. It's good for lubricating parts, sawbacks, winding teeth, right, you name it. This kid's got it. So always carry one. Now, let's see what happens. Bit of that. Oh, done, walkway. Bang! There's always the fun bits of brake drums. Just fun times. Easy as pie. Sweet as. So that's not finished yet, but that's sort of how it works. So you apply your foot on the brake, this comes out, locks on your brake drum as your wheel's spinning, and then throws these out. Just then lock onto your hub, slow your wheel down, stop, ideally. The bit that adjusts these is this little fella here, which you de-adjust from the back of the bottom there. That's just like a little nut that you turn, which brings these forks in or out, which brings the shoes in or out to contact the drum. That sets your tension, or your distance, your gap. So it's always good once these are out, give them a bit of inox and some anti-seize. Just helps you adjusting next time and whatnot. These can seize up, so doesn't take much. Put this back together, I'll just wind that all the way in, so then it's de-adjusted as much as you can, and then you can work from ground zero sort of thing. That goes in there. Another deadly spring. And there's always tricks to these. Everyone's got their own different tricks, and there's specialty tools for them, but I'm just a specialty bloke, so I'll just use normal tools. Boom. Special. Now, there's a spring that sits behind this magnet here. It's quite crucial. So then you've got, it's always ready for contact. Now to keep that there, I just tend to use a little lucky band, which you save up. You save these lucky bands from broccolinis and what else is there? Asparagus. Yeah, just keep in a jar. And yes, that's held there, not going to move. And then that just wears away. Your first time you put your foot on the brake, gone. Don't worry about it. So, just a little trick. Otherwise, you're struggling. Done that before. Cool. So that's all in place. Happy days. Yeah, it should be. Just make sure it's all properly in there. Nothing's going to fall out. The wires aren't going to pinch on anything. Not too tight. So yeah, so we'll knock these wheel bearings out and change them. Now for this, you've got to connect these two wires up. There's many different ways you can do it. You can do little male-female terminals. Wouldn't solder it purely because we go through water on that, and solder introduces corrosion, and then brakes don't work, and blah 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 blah. But I just use Deutsch plugs. They're probably the best waterproof plug. Yeah, fail safe almost. Everything, you know, everything's got its limits, but Deutsch plugs seem to be always working on. Easy. But that one you got to have a specialty tool for. So. Just like that, plug that in there, we'll cable tie that up nicely after. Mint. Now we had some technical difficulties with the camera, so I've already pulled the bearings out. We've got some new ones here. Now with bearings, what we're looking for with the old ones is with the race, get your bearing race. That's what your bearing sits on in. When you're to do your adjustment, you can see how tight it's been on, with if it's worn a groove as such and mucked up your bearings into your race. You can also see if there's pitting. If there's any pitting, so pitted, that means water's gotten in and started messing with your grease, or if your grease is shit as well. You can also see the hard facing chroming on the bearings. If that's come off, it's definitely a good time to change them. These ones have been wearing quite nicely, so I'll keep them as spares. Chuck these new ones in, should be good to go. So to knock your bearing race in, normally just use a punch and a hammer, but I've got this quite nice kit here, bearing installer, which has sort of all your different, well, most of them anyway, your different bearing race sizes, and it's also good for knocking seals in and stuff as well. So you sort of just pick one that suits. This one almost suits, so it'll be good enough for the bush. And you got your little bit that sits in that bit, all that bits, and away you go. You'll know once you're in, because the noise will change from going down nice and hollow to something solid, so good indication. I'll just put a bit of grease around that, helps it. Now another specialty tool, handy tool anyway for bearings, saves you getting your hands dirty, full of bloody grease and stuff. It's one of these, King Chrome do these. I think there's probably other people that do them as well, but the bearing grease packer. Basically just fill the bottom of this with grease, and then put your bearing inside, just like that. Boom, screw this down so your bearing is nice and seated, and then just start pushing. And what that does is just pack all the grease inside, in between your rollers, metal rollers. As you can sort of see, maybe all the grease has come inside the bearing, so that's where you need it the most. And then yeah, you just sort of lay the grease around the outside, and that drops in there. Make sure that sits nicely. And what sits behind that is a seal, dust seal basically, what keeps the grease in and the dust out, as well as water and anything else. Now there's a spring that sits behind that. I tend to pack that with grease so the spring sort of stays in there when you're installing it. But make sure when you pull the old seal out, you know which way this goes on. It doesn't go that way, but yeah, you just sort of take photos. Definitely helps if you don't know what you're doing. And then that just taps in there. Getting started sometimes can be shit. And then that just sort of sits flush. Happy days. That side's done. Now we'll do the other side, put the other bearing in, and put her on. That sort of sits in there like that, almost. Next one down, this one. And it's just the diameter, outside diameter of that's just smaller than that, so you can push it all the way through and not get stuck. There, make sure you start off square. Noise change, happy days. Make sure it's not piss. Bearing, drop in. Alright, let's just bloody install this big plate. So with this stub axle here, you also just want to chuck some grease all around that. Just a little bit where the seal sits as well, help it go on. And you also put a little bit around the seal as well. Just a little bit. You probably didn't see it before as well, but in between these two bearings here, there's sort of a void. You just want to pack that with grease, not over grease, but not over grease it, but just enough so when the wheel starts spinning, the grease gets hot and whatnot, it sort of comes out and goes through your bearings, keeps them lubricated and whatnot. Handy. Righto. I tend to keep the outside bearing in as I'm fitting it on, so when you go on there, it doesn't go and piss and then bend your seal or stuff like that. You just want it to go nice. Nice. Alright. Right, now we chuck your washer on. Right, now it's a preload of the bearing. Preload is load before the load. That's just the load you chuck on both bearings. So obviously as you tighten this up, squeeze it together. If you have it too tight, you'll start mucking up your bearings, and then this will get hot, and then you got heaps of shit on. And then if it's too loose, then the bearings have more play, and then mucks your bearings up, and then you got heaps on. So it's got to be in between, heaps on, heaps on. You just want a nice amount of onness. So at the start, sort of not crank it up, but tighten it up. And then you spin your wheels, get your hub. That noise is just that lucky band spinning around. And you know it's tight. back it off to hand tight. Now this is like a castellation nut, so you've got a hole that goes through the stud that way, and then each of these grooves is your adjustment. And when you tighten it up, you just feel it. So it'd be loose, too tight, and then you just feel the bearing just contact the race. And there'll be no that way movement. And the split pin goes on. And your cap, I tend to just put a bit of grease around the cap as well. Helps a bit. So there. And that's yeah. That's your de-assembly and assembly. Done. You chuck a bit of anti-seize on your studs, then we'll chuck the wheel back on and we'll get back to jump in the car. I'll spin this, we'll put the foot on the brake and make sure it all works, and yeah, we'll have to just check the bearing, play in, or probably the next camp we'll pull up, we'll just jack it up and make sure we've got no play and make sure everything's sweet, and yeah, there it goes. Yeah, on. Off. Off. On. Yeah. Yeah, all good. So yeah, that's how I do brake drums, brake adjustment and ball bearings. I'm a mechanic myself, so you know, it's not a tutorial, it's just how I do it. But yeah, if you don't know what you're doing, you know, obviously take it to a professional, or yeah, go to a course and learn. But yeah, it's always good to basically check your wheel bearings. Is something you guys can do. You know, jack it up, and then by pushing the top and the bottom, you'll see if there's any free play in them, and if there is, then yeah, go from there. But we'll move on to another job shortly, I reckon. Thanks for watching. It's good for lubricating parts, saltbacks, winding teeth, like you name it. That's a preload, the bearing. Preload is a load before the load.
It's still recording.